Life is a long journey, where everyone must face challenges, gossip, loss, and even fleeting moments of happiness. Amidst this whirlpool, what helps us stay grounded? The Buddha teaches that peace does not come from avoiding suffering, but from how we face it with compassion, humility, and wisdom. When our minds are no longer disturbed by rumors, no longer clinging to gains and losses, or superiority and inferiority, only then do we truly touch freedom. Let us look within ourselves. How many times have we allowed anger to sweep away precious moments? How many times have we lost our inner peace chasing after fleeting things? In truth, happiness is not far away, it resides in each breath, in the stillness of the heart, in the ability to let go and smile at life, no matter what it brings. Let us walk together on this journey of discovering priceless lessons from the Buddha's teachings, to realize that a life full of love and wisdom is always within our reach. In the tumultuous sea of life, one is easily swept into the whirlpool of hatred, competition, and desires. We often tend to react to hurt with revenge, to hatred with hatred, and to contempt by proving ourselves. However, the Buddha teaches that none of these reactions bring true peace. Only when we root ourselves in compassion and build on humility can we achieve tranquility in this stormy life. Compassion is not simply love or superficial sympathy, it is profound understanding, the ability to look deeply into the hearts of others to see the suffering that drives them. When someone is angry, when they speak harshly or act wrongfully, they are, in fact, tormented by their own mind. When we understand this, we no longer hold grudges but instead, our hearts are filled with compassion. On one occasion, while spreading the Dharma, the Buddha encountered a man who came to insult him. The man uttered slander and attempted to provoke, but the Buddha remained silent, smiling gently. Finally, when the man ran out of words, the Buddha calmly asked, "If you offer a gift to someone and they do not accept it, whose gift is it?" The man replied, "Of course, it still belongs to me." The Buddha nodded and said, "Exactly, the hatred you direct at me, I do not accept, therefore it still belongs to you." This story is not just a lesson in remaining calm in the face of insults, but a deeper teaching in the Buddha's philosophy. When we do not cling to hatred, hatred has no chance to exist in our hearts. Only when there is no anger can we achieve true peace. Compassion is not only about forgiveness, but also about proactively bringing peace to others, whether they deserve it or not. Someone may hurt us, but we have the power to break the cycle of suffering by forgiving and sending them love. Hatred can only be dissolved by compassion, just as darkness can only be dispelled by light. But does compassion mean allowing others to trample on us? Does compassion equate to weakness? No. Compassion is not weakness, but rather the great strength of those who have overcome their own small egos. A wise person with compassion is not passive in their suffering, instead, they possess the wisdom to transform any situation without being harmed by it. People often misunderstand humility as self-deprecation, as a refusal to show oneself. But in reality, humility is the virtue of those who have reached maturity in their consciousness. A humble person is not someone unaware of their talents, but someone who knows their abilities and does not feel the need to flaunt them. A truly wise person does not need to prove their wisdom. Just like a towering mountain in the sky, it stands tall without needing anyone's praise. Like a quiet river, it flows without needing recognition, quietly nourishing all things. A person of true value is not someone who constantly boasts about their achievements, but one who lets their actions speak for themselves. Humility is also the understanding that everything in life is impermanent, that nothing truly belongs to us forever. Fame will fade, wealth will disappear, and even our bodies cannot be preserved indefinitely. So, what is there to cling to? Once, a king came to ask a Zen master, "Can you tell me what is the most important thing in life?" The Zen master smiled and replied, "Your Majesty, the most important thing is the present moment. The past is gone, the future has not yet come, only the present truly exists. A humble person is one who understands the impermanent nature of life, who does not cling to fame, does not fight for power, but always remains at peace amid the ever-changing world. If someone has compassion but lacks humility, they may fall into the trap of pride in their goodness. If someone has humility but lacks compassion, they may become withdrawn, afraid to open their heart to others. Therefore, these two virtues must go hand in hand, supporting each other. A person with compassion and humility not only loves all beings but also does not care whether they are recognized for their deeds. They do good not because they expect gratitude but simply because they understand that love is the essence of life. There is a story about an old carpenter living in a small village. Every day, he quietly worked, repairing houses for the poor without ever accepting payment. A young person asked him, "Why do you help others without asking for anything in return?" He simply smiled and said, "When you help someone, you receive something more valuable than money, a light heart and a peaceful soul." Compassion and humility are not only noble virtues reserved for saints, but qualities that anyone can practice in everyday life. When we know how to forgive instead of harboring anger, how to help instead of harm, how to listen instead of argue, we are walking the path to true peace. The Buddha taught, a person may conquer thousands of armies in battle, but the greatest victory is the victory over oneself. And the victory over oneself begins with letting go of anger, lowering the ego, and expanding our compassion and living humbly. Try living a day without anger, without fighting, just with love and listening. Try living a day without proving anything, simply living fully in each moment. When you do this, you will experience true peace, a peace that does not come from the outside, but from within your own heart. The modern world presents us with a reality filled with noise, images, and a constant clamor from all sides. In a society where everything is fast-paced, rushed, and endlessly demands attention, we easily forget that life is not simply what we do, but how we live in each passing moment. The Buddha taught, "Do not let the past become a burden, nor let the future become a source of fear." This is a profound reminder to master the present, to live fully in the moment. To understand this teaching, we must first examine two major concepts in life, the past and the future. The past holds our memories, pains, mistakes, and also the joy and accomplishments we've experienced. The future is the realm of dreams and expectations, but also the place where anxiety, insecurity, and sometimes fear reside. However, in reality, nothing can change the past, and the future is never something we can grasp with certainty. All we have is the present moment. In fact, we often allow the past to bind us, constantly dwelling on old mistakes, past relationships, or wrong decisions made. This leads to a stagnant state of mind, where we are unable to move forward. In such times, it feels as though we are trapped in the burden of our own past. The Buddha pointed out that if we continue living in the past, we will miss the opportunities and joys present in the here and now. Likewise, if we are obsessed with fearing the future, we cannot enjoy the peaceful moments right before us. Think of life as a watercolor painting that we can create with our own hands. Each moment in life is a new brushstroke, an opportunity to create a perfect picture. If you keep looking back at the brushstrokes that have already been made or dream only of those that have yet to come, the painting of the present will never be completed. Therefore, mastering the present is the only way to live fully and not let life pass by in vain. One of the greatest secrets to mastering the present is learning to listen. Listening is not merely a skill but an art of deep understanding, not just with others but also with oneself. It is when we not only hear what is being said but also listen to what is left unsaid, to what is deeply hidden within the heart. In the modern world, we are surrounded by noise, from the honking horns outside, the constant ringing of phones, to the incessant demands of work, family, and friends. We have become accustomed to never having a moment of silence, and in the midst of this, our true thoughts and feelings can easily be obscured. Yet, deep listening is the ability to find stillness amid the noise, the ability to recognize that in a single moment of quiet, we can hear so much more. One of the important arts in Buddhism is the ability to listen. When we listen not only with our ears but also with our hearts, we will recognize that each word and action carries profound messages. When you are silent, you can hear the wind, the rustling leaves, and you can also hear the desires, worries, and feelings of the person in front of you. That is when you understand that every person has their own story, that each life carries burdens and pains that we might not always see. Silence is not mere muteness, but awareness. When we listen, we not only hear the words of others, but we also hear ourselves, the emotions deeply embedded in our soul. It is then that we can recognize the truth of our feelings, our fears, and our true desires within. And that is the key to mastering the present, to living mindfully and not being swept away by the storms of life. Happiness is not a destination, but a state of mind that can be achieved in the present moment. When we do not let the past control us and do not let the future make us fearful, we can live fully in the present and find happiness there. A story from a businessman clearly illustrates this. He had once been consumed by his work, chasing achievements, and in doing so, he had neglected the most precious things, his family, the joyful moments with his children and wife. It wasn't until he faced a terminal illness that he realized that true happiness was not found in material success, but in the moments of peace spent with loved ones. Modern life can easily lead us to a state of exhaustion, busyness, and forgetfulness of the fact that happiness resides in the simplest things. A morning of waking up to hear your child laugh, feeling the warmth of your spouse in your arms, this is happiness. When we live in the present, we do not need to search for happiness elsewhere, but simply pause and feel it in each moment. The Buddha's teaching not to let the past become a burden and not to let the future become a fear is a profound reminder. In an age where people are often caught in the whirlwind of ambition, anxiety about the future, and regret over the past, returning to the present is the most correct and effective way to live. When we master the present, we will no longer worry about the future or dwell on the past. And it is then that we will find peace in our hearts, a peace that does not come from external conditions, but from the awareness and gratitude in each present moment. Practicing deep listening and living in the present are not easy tasks in a noisy and chaotic world. However, if we persevere, if we create moments of silence for our soul, we will find true peace. In that stillness, we will not only master the present, but also be liberated from the noise of the world, living a meaningful, complete, and peaceful life. In the life of every individual, there is one thing that is inevitable: adversity, challenges, and difficulties. These may manifest as failures in work, troubled relationships, health crises, or unforeseen losses. Each of us has moments where we must face difficulties that seem insurmountable. However, in the light of the Buddha's teachings, these hardships are not things that we cannot accept or overcome. Rather, they are opportunities for us to cultivate the mind and practice wisdom. The Buddha taught that life is inherently filled with suffering and change. But it is within this suffering that we can find liberation. What is important is not avoiding or denying difficulties, but learning to face them with a peaceful and awakened mind. Turning boulders into stepping stones is one of the Buddha's profound teachings, suggesting that each challenge can become an opportunity for growth and development. In moments of great trial, we often easily fall into confusion, anxiety, and despair. We may feel as though all our efforts, all our dreams, are crumbling, and that life is nothing but pain and loss. However, one of the crucial lessons that Buddhism offers is acceptance. When faced with adversity, the first thing we need to do is not run away or resist what is happening. Acceptance here does not mean resignation or giving up, but rather recognizing that everything that happens has its cause and nature. The Buddha taught that all things are impermanent, and therefore, suffering does not last forever. When we accept the worst possible outcome, we are no longer frightened or distressed by it. On the contrary, we can face it calmly, with equanimity, and find the path to liberation from it. When a meditator once asked a master, "How do I stop fearing the loss of my job?" the master replied, "Imagine that you die tomorrow. What is more important, your job or the love you have shared?" This response was not only advice on facing the fear of losing something important but also a reminder of the impermanence of life. Work, career, and money, all are transient. What we do, what we accumulate in this life, can vanish in an instant. But love, compassion, and genuine relationships are the true values that never disappear. Buddhism advises us to see difficulties as opportunities to practice mindfulness and deep awareness. Difficulties are like strong winds, they can blow away the weak but can lift the strong kite higher. In times of hardship, when everything seems to be working against us, this is the moment to focus on understanding the true nature of things and phenomena. When one practices the Dharma, they learn how not to be overly affected by external suffering but, instead, find peace within their own heart. Challenges are not enemies but great teachers, helping us to see more clearly about ourselves, about what we need to let go of, and about the true values in life. The difficult moments are opportunities for us to cultivate virtue, to grow in understanding and compassion. When we learn how to endure, accept, and understand adversity, we will no longer be overwhelmed by it and can overcome it more easily. In today's modern life, with its rapid pace and ever-increasing demands, it is easy for people to become trapped in the whirlpool of materialism. For many, success is measured by accumulated wealth, property, vehicles, and social connections. However, Buddhism clearly teaches that material things are fleeting and cannot bring lasting happiness. The things we accumulate in this life, no matter how grand, will ultimately become the wealth we leave behind when we pass away. There are stories of wealthy individuals who spend their entire lives accumulating money and building estates, only to leave behind disputes and arguments among their heirs when they die. The mansion they once took pride in may become a place filled with sorrow and conflict among their descendants. From this, we can realize that happiness does not lie in the material things we possess, but within ourselves, in the moments when we know enough, when we love and appreciate the simple things around us. The Buddha taught, happiness does not lie in your wallet, but in the moment when you know enough. Fulfillment is not something we gain from possessing more wealth or power, but from the awareness that what we have in the present is enough for us to live a peaceful and happy life. Try living simply for a day, giving away the things you do not need, and you will find that the fewer material conditions you have, the lighter and more serene your heart becomes. In Buddhism, the practice of contentment is not just a way of living but a method for freeing ourselves from endless greed and desire. When we always feel that we do not have enough, when we constantly chase after endless goals, we will feel exhausted and empty. But when we know contentment, we experience peace and satisfaction in every moment. Living a minimalist life is not about deprivation, it is a choice to live in a more refined and meaningful way. Giving away what we no longer use is a way to liberate the mind from the burdens of materialism. Try living a day with only what is truly necessary, letting go of all that burdens the heart. You will find your spirit becoming lighter and freer than ever before. In the journey of facing adversity, mastering the mind, and practicing contentment are the key factors that help us rediscover true peace and happiness. This is not about escaping or denying life's challenges, but about accepting and properly understanding the impermanence of human life. When we master the mind, we will no longer be swayed by external circumstances, and thus, we will always find peace and happiness in every situation. In this life, failure and death are two things that no one can avoid, whether they want to or not. However, instead of fearing them or running away from them, we can learn many valuable lessons from these experiences. Buddhism, with its profound wisdom and expansive vision, helps us understand the true nature of failure and death, not as things to be feared or avoided, but as great teachers that guide us towards enlightenment, maturity, and inner peace. Failure is not the enemy, but a strict teacher. This saying of the Buddha contains a profound philosophy that few truly understand throughout their lives. For most people, failure is something to fear, something that makes us feel ashamed, embarrassed, and sometimes even lost. In the modern world, where success is always seen as a measure of one's worth, failure is often regarded as something unacceptable. However, according to Buddhism, failure is actually a precious lesson, an opportunity for us to recognize the impermanence of life and the flaws in our hearts. The story of the Japanese bamboo is a perfect example of the importance of failure in the process of growth. For the first 4 years, the Japanese bamboo grows only a few centimeters, but in the 5th year, it shoots up to 15 meters. The secret of this growth is not the sudden burst in the 5th year, but the process of its roots quietly growing deep into the earth during the first 4 years. If the bamboo did not go through this difficult process, it would not be able to rise high, nor withstand the fierce winds. Failure in life is much like the growth process of the bamboo. It is the stage where we must dig deep into our own soil, learn from our mistakes and failures. Failure is not the end, but an inseparable part of the journey towards self-improvement. The difficulties we face are the roots that help us grow and become stronger in the future. Therefore, do not fear failure. Learn to rise after each fall, for each time you stand up, you are one step closer to freedom and enlightenment. Each morning is a rebirth. This is an important truth in Buddhism, and also a very practical philosophy in modern life. Each new day is an opportunity to rewrite the story of our lives, to start anew, correct the mistakes of the past, and make life more meaningful. Just like in meditation rituals, where each day is a rebirth of the soul, we can live each day as an opportunity to refine ourselves, not just in our work, but in all our relationships and ways of living. The rebirth each day does not mean we can ignore the past, but that we learn to view the past as a valuable lesson. The past cannot be changed, but how we face it and learn from it can help us become stronger and wiser. Therefore, each morning, each moment in life is an opportunity for us to start again, to live more consciously, with more love, and with more kindness. For those who practice Buddhism, each day is a day to return to oneself, to cultivate the soul, and to live a life not governed by anxiety, fear, or greed. Each day is an opportunity to live true to our nature, to nurture purity and wisdom. When we understand this, we no longer feel burdened by the failures of the past, but always look forward with faith and hope. Death is a reminder of impermanence, one of the most profound lessons that the Buddha teaches us. In the modern world, where humanity is making tremendous advancements in science and technology, we tend to believe that we can control everything, even time and life itself. However, death remains unavoidable, an essential part of life. The Buddha teaches that death is not something to fear, but a natural part of the life cycle. Death reminds us of the impermanence of all things and phenomena. Nothing lasts forever, and we cannot control everything in our lives. Impermanence is not just a truth about death but a truth about all aspects of life, from health, emotions, work, to wealth and fame. Therefore, when we recognize impermanence, we will know how to live a more complete and meaningful life, not getting caught up in endless desires or anxiety over things we cannot hold on to. A Zen master, before passing away, left behind this verse: live like a drifting cloud, die like a falling leaf. Coming and going is natural, what need is there for worry? These words remind us that death comes as a natural event, nothing to fear, and we should learn to live with ease and serenity. When we live with sufficiency, love fully, and do not cling to the temporary, death will no longer be something to fear, but a natural part of the eternal journey of the soul. Facing death is not to make us fearful, but to help us live more deeply and meaningfully. When we remember that we will die, we will live with more kindness, love, and attention to what really matters. To practice this, one simple exercise the Buddha taught is to write down 3 things you would do if you only had 1 year to live. This is a way of living from the heart, a mindfulness of the true values in life. This practice helps us realize that throughout our lives, we cannot do everything, cannot have all that we want, and cannot control everything. What truly matters in life are love, kindness, compassion, and inner peace. When we remember death, we will live each day more fully, leaving no room for regrets or sorrow. Death, although it may seem frightening, is actually a reminder for us to live with more meaning. When we understand and accept the impermanence of life, we will learn to live freely, not burdened by anxiety or futile ambition. And from there, we can live a peaceful, fulfilling, and happy life. Perhaps none of us can avoid the storms of life, but we can choose how we face them. When you learn to listen instead of argue, to let go instead of cling, to smile instead of harbor anger, this is when you take control of your life. We cannot control what happens, but we can control our minds. And when the mind is at peace, life will be at peace. Each new day is an opportunity to start over. Love more, listen more, and live more fully. Do not wait until facing death to realize you have never truly lived. Remember that everything is impermanent, and it is this very impermanence that reminds us to cherish every present moment.